Hey guys, welcome back to According To. I'm Megan.
And I'm Ciera. And for this week's episode, we thought it'd be interesting to talk about relationship and friendship breakups. So
this was inspired by...
I was like, you can take the lead.
I am no longer dating the person that I was dating. I don't know when I brought it up on the podcast, but...
a month or two ago.
Yeah. And so it's been like 2 weeks since the breakup. This was not a very emotional breakup, so just like fair warning for that. Like any recommendations or things that I have are only going to go so far. But I've had a little bit of space from the breakup. There's been like a little bit of time separation. Right after the fact, I recorded like it was like a 13-minute video of just like me talking in the car. And I was like, should I post this on TikTok? And I was like, maybe
Ciera. Well, I was like,
Haley and Maggie, and I
feel like you need that separation to like really know what you would or would not want to say.
And
or if
TikTok is gone now. TikTok is gone now, so it doesn't even matter.
Peace.
And so I probably won't touch on everything that I like said in that video, but like we'll see what I do or don't feel like sharing today or what I feel like is relevant because, you know, I'm a person of the people. I'd like to share tasteful details if I think it's not overstepping a boundary, but that was what inspired. I felt like I just didn't want to leave people in the dark. I already have responded to like
some
a
people
TikTok
have
comment, and like I'm not here to hide stuff like regarding that. It's not really what I am trying to do. I'm also someone like this doesn't embarrass me. Like I've been pretty transparent the entire time I've been on the internet with like maybe not like when I'm like dating and just going on like one-off dates here and there, but like if things have been progressing or if I'm actually seeing someone, like I don't really feel a reason to like hide that because I am not really sharing a whole lot with you guys anyways. I think it's just a natural part of life to, you know, you're dating someone, it sometimes doesn't work out,
and I
now
feel
you're
like
not seeing them anymore.
With new relationships, granted, again, you and I have not been in, you know, a ton of relationships, but I feel like when you become official with someone, like there's still kind of that trial period where like you're trying to figure each other out, where you're like, you know, together, but you're like, is this long term or like maybe we like realize that we're not each other's person. So yeah, we've got a little outline of things that we'll talk through, and we'll kind of fit some friendship breakup things in here as well. Yeah, just like losing relationships or like having falling outs or things of that nature,
moving on from stuff like that. So before we go into that whole part of the episode, we are going to do our weekly spotlights. I feel like this week is just like lowlights. It's the TikTok ban, and that's so upsetting.
Sad.
And then our book updates. I was on my phone last night. Actually, I was like thinking I still had an hour and a half to like enjoy TikTok, so I was actually busy watching our old Megan and Ciera. Like I was like looking at old PT school vlogs. I was just enjoying stuff, and I was thinking like I should probably switch back over to TikTok soon because like I only have so much time left to enjoy that platform. But before I had the chance to do that, Ciera was telling me that her TikTok was freaking out and it was not working. So I did not get any more.
I was like,
of
my comments aren't loading.
Time.
Oh no. Because when it happened, my TikTok was open and then I had not closed out of it, but like I left the app, but it was still open on my phone. And then I went to Instagram for a little bit and I was seeing Instagram stories of people saying like, it's gone, TikTok's not working. So then I went to TikTok and like I could still scroll a little bit, but my comments weren't loading. And that's when I told Megan, and you must have closed out of the app because then when you opened it, it didn't work.
It was just saying.
And then eventually mine, like I couldn't scroll anymore.
And of course, like the VPNs aren't working either, people are saying, and it's just, we're not accessing it. I do feel like by the time this is up, it's going to be back up. I'm crossing my fingers because I do think that.
We're recording this on Sunday.
I do think that Trump, he's already basically said he's going to do whatever 90-day extension he can do. So I feel like we'll at least have it for another 90 days. But then it's just like, who knows what's going to happen to the app?
I feel like we just keep kicking the rock like further down the road.
Like if someone buys it, is the app going to change? Or I don't know. But I would like the app back.
Give it back.
I do have, I've downloaded RedNote and I've been like messing around with it a little bit. Like I've certainly gone on and off it a little bit today just to like fill that void a little bit. But it's hard to figure out, like there's a multitude of things. TikTok, everything was in like one location. It felt like a community. Collectively, like everyone was there, okay? And now I feel like we're in a weird space where people are kind of like not sure where to go. RedNote's one option. Some people are kind of like, do we just do Instagram and like do reels, and then some people are kind of holding off a little bit because like TikTok might come back. But it's just we're in a weird spot, and I don't really know where do we input my energy. So yeah.
I'm not liking it. I hope it comes back because I just feel like unless another app were to like come and take the place, which again I don't personally want reels or shorts to be like the new TikTok.
I just think
I want Instagram
my
to stay Instagram.
pictures on a separate app, and the short form content can be somewhere else. Otherwise, it's just going to get too confusing and too much. And like the purposes of the content is different. I don't want it all tied to one profile and one social media platform.
Mm-hmm. Like the stuff that I want to see on Instagram is not the same thing that I want to see on TikTok. And if I don't have TikTok and then Instagram tries to curate what I want to see, like I just feel like it's not going to give me what I want.
Or like the few times I have been on Instagram Reels or like I've gone over to that tab, like it's not curated the way that it's not TikTok.
I spent however many years on that thing curating it exactly how I wanted it. So anyway, hopefully
what is a spotlight from this week though? We're just being Debbie Downers.
Spotlight from this week. I got to be done with work early-ish on Friday. That was nice.
Me too. I was also done fairly early.
And it was it Friday that was nice?
It was.
A little glimpse of what spring might look like. And then now it's freezing today.
It was like 40 degrees sunny on Friday, and it was like the world was healing.
Yeah. I went and got groceries this morning, and I didn't wear gloves because I didn't think to. But just like the little time that I was outside between my car and the grocery store, I had to like take breaks and put my hand like inside my coat because I was that freezing, and like take breaks putting stuff, like put something in my car, put my hands in my coat. Get ready? Put something back in my car, put my hands in my coat. And then I had to like walk the cart back to the cart holder with my hands like in my coat, and I was pushing with my elbows. So it was cold.
In terms of a book update, I am still reading The House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm going to try and finish it today because our book club for that book is tomorrow. My Kindle says I have 2.5 hours left of reading. I'm just at a point, my goal today is like going to break it up in chunks. I'm going to try and read a half hour, and then like I might go shower. And then I'm going to try and read for another half hour to like just get it done. And here's the thing. I don't think this is a bad book. It hasn't been like, the writing's fine, the characters are fine, but I kind of feel like the whole point of the book is like staring you in the face the entire time you're reading it, where it's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't have preconceived notions about someone before you get to know them. And the book is not interesting enough, like just other plot-wise, for me to like really care. So that's how I felt like this whole time I've been reading this book. And if it weren't for book club, I probably would have DNF'd this book, but I'm really trying not to. And yeah, I just would rather read other books is what it comes down to. Yeah. I'd rather spend my time not reading this.
I finished it yesterday. I gave it 3 stars. I have pretty much the same thoughts and feelings as Megan. I feel like it is way too long for the story that it's telling. It did not need to be 400 pages. I got the gist kind of within the first 100 pages or so. There's also like the male main character, and then like I don't know what you call him, like the headmaster of this orphanage. Like they have like a kind of like romance subplot, and like I just don't feel like I'm getting the sparks that it is implying that they have. So like I didn't feel like that was fleshed out enough to make sense. And yeah, I just feel like I'm shocked at like how well renowned this book is compared to like the book that I just read. But whatever.
I mean, it's got a good it's objectively a good, moral to the story. But like, have we not all heard this before?
Anyway, I'm now reading All In, which is the 3rd book in the Natural series. So I just need like a quick, simple read. I should be able to finish this like in a couple days.
I think that the next book I'm going to read, I just got Beg, Borrow, and Steal by Sarah Adams. I think that's what it's called. It's the 3rd book in the When in Rome series. And her romance, I feel like it'd be a good refresh. It'd be a nice, quick, easy, low-stakes romance read. And I'm doing fine on my reading goal right now. I've already read 2 books. This will be my 3rd one that I hopefully finish today. I'm just trying to, obviously, with my goal of 60 books for this year. That means there needs to be at least like 1 book a week preferably. So I'm just trying to make sure that since this book did kind of slump me a little bit, I'm trying to make sure I can get another one done quick after I'm done reading it.
Anyway, without further ado, if we have nothing else to talk about, let's get into kind of the bulk of the episode. So I will say, me personally, my current relationship is the first relationship I've never been in. We're still dating. So I've never experienced a like romantic breakup. I've had like talking phases fizzle out or like end, but like not a true breakup. So
I have had, in terms of like labeled relationships, I've only had 2, and they have both been short relationships. So
if you are looking for like advice,
if you're looking for like, I just broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years and I need to figure out how to move on with my life, like this might not be the episode where we're going to have those answers for you.
But we'll still share our experiences, our thoughts, and all that good stuff.
Where would make do you think if I'm sharing anything specific to me and my breakup, is there a certain part I should come in with that? Is there...
it says to, if you guys don't know, I use ChatGPT to like
Ciera's
make some outlines for the
outline.
podcast. It's actually really helpful though, because like we come up with like, A, sometimes it helps us come up with concepts, but then B,
AI
like,
kind of knows what it's talking about.
I sometimes don't know the best way to like format an episode or like what all should I include. So, but we're still obviously bringing the thoughts, ideas. It just has like when we should talk about stuff where. But it says you should share a personal anecdote or story about a breakup. So I feel
should we do the lowdown now?
ChatGPT wants you to front load the episode.
You can. I think I'm gonna do this tastefully.
How much do you want me to interject or not?
You can interject whenever. I was gonna say to you, I feel like I'm gonna hopefully share things tastefully and not regret what I'm gonna say. But you're gonna be my person to check me, just to be like, maybe like hold back a little bit or what have you.
Okay. I don't think you'll need that.
Quick recap if you don't know. So how long were we dating? I think a month and a half. We had been seeing each other for basically like 2 months. We also like labeled it pretty quickly. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. It is what it is. But like we had known each other entire duration, like 2 months basically. And if you don't remember me mentioning this on the podcast, or if you didn't like follow me on TikTok, I had met him out at a bar when I was at a bar with my friend. And then we saw each other a lot within like the first 3 weeks of knowing each other. And that's where I was like getting really good vibes, and I thought we were getting along well. I also feel like generally we were like compatible, but that doesn't, like, it's not the only thing you need in a relationship. And so one of the things I'm trying to figure out like how to best word this. Basically, the thing that was the breakdown of our relationship and that made it so it did not work well was communication. And many people say like communication is like the key to a good relationship. And so for the first 3 weeks, we were seeing each other often enough that like I wasn't noticing any huge lapses in communication. So I wasn't particularly worried or concerned.
Texting, phone calls,
yeah,
whatever,
just like
when you're not with each other.
Yeah. And so didn't really notice that or have any concerns. It was around like Thanksgiving through like December, there was a lot more times where he was out of town or I was out of town, and we would go longer periods of time without seeing each other. And during those gaps in times where we weren't seeing each other, that's when I was really noticing just like a communication breakdown. I didn't feel like we were talking at all or keeping tabs on one another, and that wasn't always sitting right with me. Okay, so one of the things also, because I don't know when else I would be able to bring this up, I started keeping
stuff. Oh, okay.
I started keeping a note in my phone of green flags, yellow flags, and then, possible red flags. God forbid, that were to happen, but it was just like a way to keep myself in check when
I feel like it's a way for you, and like you don't need to, nor should you like necessarily do this in your relationship.
I was also like, for the podcast, like,
yeah.
And this was like, maybe this would have been like a long lasting relationship. I would have green flags from early on of like, these were things that I was noticing that like I thought were green flags. So I was kind of like, just my little content producer mind was like, let's keep a list of some things.
Okay, you can continue.
So that's where the list started, was like, I've got some green flags. So I will share some of those. And then...
And also, like, I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but like, we're not saying he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's fine.
We weren't meant for each other. So green flags. One was that he was listening to my podcast without my request. That was something that I thought was endearing, because no one that I date has to listen to my podcast or watch my videos or the content that I make. Like, that's not a requirement. But to me, it signaled like, oh, he actually likes me enough to like go out of his way when I'm not with him to like listen to what I'm saying and things like that. So that was in the green flag category. Next
he
thing,
listened to this episode. That would be funny.
I'm hoping he just did what I did and unfollowed me on everything. I know he unfollowed me on Instagram, but I would imagine he just did the whole, we don't need to communicate in any way, shape, or form anymore. Okay. Another thing that I had early on was that communication focused on next meeting in person, which I do think early on, I just didn't want to be stuck in a like pen pals type of situation. Because I feel like with dating apps especially, that's typically what happens. That's not really what I'm looking for. So you have to find like the fine line of kind of getting to know if there's any chemistry with someone before you maybe invest time in going on a date with someone. But I also feel like, you know, a first date can serve the same purpose. Part of this though, knowing what I know now, was like the communication otherwise was like basically non-existent. So anyways. Another thing was he asked what I felt comfortable with him listening or watching, like regarding podcasts or YouTube videos.
And that was more so like in the beginning of like when you were just getting to know each other.
Because he was like, I could go crazy and
learn everything,
but yeah, yellow flags. This was something where I was kind of like, this is like not. I don't know the best way to word this. I'll just say what I have written down first. Okay. So I will say the first date that we went on was kind of like an awkward pay situation. And I wasn't sure what to think of this at the time. But what we did for our first date was we went and got coffee somewhere. And this is just like a place you like walk up to the counter to order. And I don't think that he had been there before. And I've been like a couple times. But we're walking up to the counter and I'm like in front of him. So I go and like order, and then it was just like this weird thing of like, are you paying, you ordering, am I,
is it separate,
what's happening here? So I asked him like, is this together, separate? And then he did like come up and order and pay, but I was just like, were you not like, if you're the guy on the first date, aren't you thinking ahead of like, I'm planning on paying, so like let me get in a situation where that can happen. So that was like I took note of that. And then what other yellow flag? Okay. The other yellow flag was that like for our first few dates, he would confirm day before, but like would not confirm day of for dates. And I was like, I more so was just like, if people on TikTok are like, this guy hasn't confirmed and it's like 2 hours till a date, like I'm not going. And so I just took note of that, wrote that down. But I was like, he's confirming the day before, so like we'll give him a break. Okay. Then red flags. I'm trying to think timeline wise when this happened, where I was just starting to be, things were starting to rub me the wrong way communication wise. So I know we had made things official a little bit before Thanksgiving. So that was in November. And then he was out of town for Thanksgiving. And then the weekend after that, I was out of town. And I'm pretty sure the weekend after that, he was out of town. And then the next weekend after that, like, he was out of town for Christmas. So there was a lot of, like, just being out of town, not seeing each other nearly as often.
Which is normally fine.
Right.
But that's when you were like, oh, like, texting,
like, I basically
phone
feel like
calls.
I'm not dating anyone right now. Because, and I'm not, like, what was hard, too, is, like, he made it a point to say, like, I'm more of a caller. I don't like texting. And I'm kind of someone where I was like, I don't mind calling, but, like, I don't really want to just like call and like chat about nothing for 45 minutes to an hour.
I do that on the podcast.
So it was kind of like a fine balance where like all I really wanted was like some text check-ins. Like I text with Ciera, you know, all day throughout the day just for whatever. Same thing with like our sister Haley. and our cousin Maggie. Like, that's what I'm
just
used
kind of a
to.
frequent line of communication, or like an open line of communication.
And that would be fine, except for like there were multiple instances where like I felt like I was sending things and then just like wouldn't hear back, and like that didn't really make me feel great. I'd be like, okay, so I'm being ignored. Awesome. One of which was he had gone out of town with some friends back to our college town. He went to the same school I did. And so I had texted him. This was on a Sunday, and I didn't know when he was coming back. And so, granted, we didn't have any plans to see each other that day, but like we're dating. So I was also kind of like things could change on the fly. So I sent him a text asking or saying like, if you're not back in town yet, let me know when you think you're going to be back in town. This was at like 2:00 in the afternoon. Okay. And then I hear back from him at 11 p.m. that day, basically saying like, oh yeah, like this was the rundown of my day. I'm like, thank you. I don't care now. It's 9 hours later. So that was like, I just didn't like that, because how, in my mind, you saw the text and you made an active decision to not respond back anything at all.
Did you guys have red receipts on?
I mean, I know I have mine on, but I know he didn't have his on. I was like, I wish you would. But I was wondering a good way, if at all, to bring that up. And I don't know, like I didn't end up bringing that situation up specifically because I was kind of like, let's see if this becomes a pattern. And I just didn't know the best way to bring it up without sounding like kind of a crazy girlfriend. But I was like, I don't think I'm being a crazy girlfriend. But anyways, I didn't bring that up. And then, like I said, we were just like not seeing each other. And then I just kept noticing like this same type of pattern. And it's one of those things where it's like, I could obviously, if it's bothering me, I could reach out and I could say something. But I literally felt like every time I would try doing that, like he wasn't getting back to me. And then not only was like any communication or conversation not happening, but I felt like I was being bothersome, and I didn't like that either. So then I feel like that first situation, like that happened early-ish December. Like from then on, like I just really like this communication issue was like very ever present in my mind. Anytime we were communicating in person, things were fine, but I do feel like just I had this issue in the back of my mind. And I was trying to like move past it without bringing it up, but inevitably I felt like it just was always there. So then
his birthday.
Yeah.
The birthday incident. This is because like Megan wasn't really telling me.
I'm trying to keep things like
don't tend to like butt into each other's relationships.
Yeah.
Granted, like I said, this is my first relationship, and like you've only been in one other one.
I'm not here to like dish or rant too much about anything regarding like the person I'm seeing. I think earlier in a podcast episode we talked about like, you know, the person, like you probably shouldn't do that because the person you're ranting to has no stake in the game to like see the good of the person that you're with. And so I was just trying to really stay in a headspace where like I'm doing all the thinking, I'm deciding how I want things to go, and I don't need Ciera's input or anyone else's input at this time until I've made my decision.
We call it the birthday incident. It's not really an incident, but like this is when Megan first kind of confided in me, like when things were
basically
kind of
I sent Ciera a text the day before.
Otherwise I was like, I had no reason to think things were like off or weird between you guys.
I sent Ciera a text. This was on a Friday. I sent Ciera a text because we were both at work, and I basically said, I'm pretty sure that the person I'm dating, I'm pretty sure we're breaking up tomorrow. So just like FYI, so this is not out of the blue and you're somewhat aware. And so then that's when I gave Ciera the lowdown. So this is the lowdown.
This is that lowdown.
This is that lowdown. This is what led to the actual breakup. So my ex-boyfriend's birthday was December 30th. Okay. So right around New Year's. And also like my work schedule, since first of all, I'm at a new job, I don't have a lot of PTO. Second of all, we're supposed to see our patients 5 days a week. So I had the option to shift days to not work on New Year's Day, or I could just choose to work New Year's Day. And I opted to just do that because I felt like that was going to be less annoying. My boyfriend had already decided like weeks ago, sorry, I just bumped my microphone. my boyfriend had already decided weeks ago, and he had invited me to go to our college town for New Year's to celebrate there. And I kind of let him know, just like with work and whatnot, like I wasn't sure. So it was always kind of like an up in the air. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to figure out what my coworkers are doing. And then just around Christmas time, like I was getting super exhausted. I already shifted my schedule then.
Were you kind of annoyed at the meetings or no?
Yeah. Like I was kind of like, I don't know if this is, because here's the thing. Like, it's not like New Year's is my favorite holiday. I just was kind of like, I think I'm going to make things worse about how I feel about the situation already if I go and just like am a Debbie Downer this whole time, because it's just like not my favorite setting to be in. And it was his birthday. I didn't want to make him not enjoy his birthday. I would say I was already still kind of like just unsure and thinking about the whole situation as well. Part of me was like, it could be good for us to like, you know, go do something together. But I was just like, for me personally, like I'm putting myself first right now, and I can't do this. Put me first. So I decided I'm sorry, but I'm not going. So when New Year's Day was a Wednesday, his birthday was Monday. I had seen him Saturday, and we hung out. We had like a nice day. We went ice skating again in person. Like, I would say things were fine, but I would say also looking back, like we were both probably just kind of like, do we feel like things are working out? But we weren't like talking about it. But I knew his birthday was on Monday, and I was kind of like, if you want to do something for your birthday, like you need to let me know, because I could plan something. You could maybe, I don't know if you have something you want to do, but let me know. So then Monday comes around. I'm at work. It's morning time. I text him happy birthday, and I also say something to the effect of, if you would like to do something, let me know. I get a text a little bit later that morning basically saying that he feels like he's just going to focus on packing because he's going out of town and like calling friends and family for his birthday, which Ciera and I both listened to Match Made in Manhattan, which is another podcast. And I just took it
submission like a few weeks ago, almost talking about like this exact same thing, where she's like,
granted, that guy was cheating. Yeah. And that's not what was happening here.
But she was like, my boyfriend doesn't want to see me for his birthday. Like,
and isn't that weird? Strange?
And before this happened, in my head when I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, that's weird.
Like, especially if the alternative for both of these situations was like, I'm just going to be hanging out by myself. I'm just going to do like a chill night in by myself. I just was like, to me, it was very clearly like alluding to what was going to be happening later this week, which was that like, we're not for each other because you don't want to spend your birthday with me. It wasn't so much that like I said, I was having doubts in my own head as well, but I'm still kind of going through the motions at this point to be like, okay, well, we are dating. It would be weird if we didn't see each other on your birthday, so we should probably do that. And I was still just kind of like trying to see like, can we build back to me being more confident in where we're at than we are now. And this certainly was like a step in the opposite direction. So that did not sit right with me, and I felt like it was appropriate for me to say something in response to kind of let him know that like that wasn't okay, and I didn't appreciate that, because this was like, I hadn't brought anything up of like, hey, this isn't working for me, or communication's not how I think it should be. So this was the first time that I had kind of initiated saying like, our communication's not the best. And I said something basically along the lines of, we also said we could do something later that week for his birthday, blah, 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 because we weren't doing anything that night. And I said, sounds good. I wish you would have told me that on Saturday when I had brought it up to you. And didn't respond to me again. And I felt like that warranted any sort of text or response or whatever.
One thing I will say about, because Megan's telling me this all like after the fact, Megan, like, I feel like I would have been like in there like, hello, like, respond.
See, I would have, except for I knew like I wasn't going to get a response is how I felt.
And also because you, I think, mentioned also earlier like, that you didn't tell me any of this until Friday. You told me this on Monday on his birthday.
Yeah,
because we were like, do we podcast?
Well, yeah, because I was like, Ciera's gonna think this is strange, and now I just have to straight up be like, he's saying he doesn't want to do anything. So yeah, I did tell you that. So when he didn't respond to that text, I and I said this in the 13-minute debrief episode I filmed for just myself. I knew when I did not hear from him the rest of that Monday, I was like, I'm not hearing from him until Thursday at the earliest. And the reason I say that is because it was just the pattern. When he's with his friends, he wants to be present with his friends. He doesn't like texting anyways, blah, blah, blah. And so, granted, it was his birthday tonight. So I was like, he's not going to want to be, brought down. And I don't really, to be honest, my energy levels at this point, things were already kind of, falling into place for, where I felt like they would be at. So in my mind, this whole week was basically, I'm going to let him do whatever he wants for New Year's Day because at this point I'm over it. And I will, come Thursday, Friday, we'll reconvene and probably just, finally end things is basically where I was at this point. And so, yeah. But I was also I got to work this week. I mentally, let's just
put it on the back burner.
I'm getting through this week and we'll talk later. So I didn't want to really, initiate anything anyways. So Monday, he's chatting with his friends and family. It's his birthday. So I was like, I'm not going to hear from him tonight. And then Tuesday, I knew he was going out of town right after work and he's going to be with his friends. And it was New Year's Eve. So I was like, I'm certainly not hearing from him then either.
Would you Happy New Year's text?
No. And Ciera, I knew not to expect any of this. And also, I said this in the episode, I keep calling it an episode, the 13-minute episode that will never be seen by anyone. It's a fine line of now we're in this is what should happen in a relationship, but our feelings are also not aligned with that anymore either. So I really wouldn't have wanted a text saying Happy New Year from him at this point. Okay. But another thing that just continues to go in the column of okay, this is where red things flag, are heading. Obviously I didn't send that text either because I was not feeling that either. So then New Year's Day comes around. It's New Year's Day. He's going to have to drive back, get ready for work the next day. I knew I was not going to be hearing from him then. And then Thursday, in my mind, I was like, Thursday would be the earliest, but he has to work all day and he's probably just going to be exhausted. I know he does some coaching. So probably not going to hear from him because a text is too hard to send out. So I will not be hearing from him.
Understandable.
And I was right about all that. Okay. Come Friday, I was making the decision that okay, I will be texting him today. We'll be getting in some form of contact because this is ridiculous at this point. And so I was going to wait till the work day was over because I was not going to deal with this while I'm at work. And he, however, was the one that texted me around lunchtime on Friday saying hey, I think we should talk sometime this weekend.
Should we?
And I said something along the lines of the sooner the better because do not push this off. If we're going to do this, let's, in my mind, I was let's do this tonight so I can have my weekend. I don't want to just be waiting to do this before I feel I can do anything else. And I wasn't sure. At this point, I texted Ciera about just incoming, warning. And Ciera was asking me stuff about how much of a conversation do you think it's going to be versus is it kind of just a set in stone? You guys are pretty much on the same page that you're going to be ending things. And I was I would say I'm 75% things are just going to end and we'll call it a day. But I'd be open to some communication just because we hadn't really done that. We hadn't done any significant communication about our lack of communication. And so there was kind of an opportunity there. I was thinking, but I was I don't know. So, but of course he was coaching Friday night. So we had to wait until Saturday morning to do our chat. And he was, this is kind of the bare minimum, but he did come in person to, do the breakup. So I guess that's one thing. However, I figured this was probably going to be a pretty quick, yeah, this isn't working. And so, see ya. So I had been do you want me to just come out to your car? You don't have to come inside if you don't want to. And he was no, I'll come inside. And then he came inside for 5 seconds. Returned my book. I appreciate that. And then I was it was so short. I was kind of is there anything else you wanted to talk about or no? And then the answer was no. And I was just like, I didn't say this, but I was like, okay, well then why the frick did you come all the way inside for 2 seconds?
Mostly like Vegas was like,
yeah, it was
like,
just kind of like
handle Vegas and
strange.
yeah.
I could have just gone and sat in your car for 2 seconds. Anyways, that's besides the point. This was like, I mean, neither of us were emotional, so not a single tear was shed on my end. I'm sure not a single tear was shed on his end. So like we're doing good over here. But that's the situation. That's the breakup. And
I feel like, to run down, and again, I highly doubt he's listening to this, but on the off chance he is, or just like to reflect, I think that he just like entered into a relationship.
I was starting to use
way
ChatGPT to like help me make sense of like, am I being crazy? Is this like the text
Did you
that I had
upload
sent
the
on
text?
Monday? I said what I said and what he said.
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
does this warrant a response? Am I being crazy?
That is so funny.
And ChatGPT was on my side. What can I say?
I think that obviously we talked about he's like a little bit younger than us. I think that he just entered into a relationship that he quite simply did not want. And I don't think it was you. I just think that like any relationship, he wants to be single right now,
Yeah.
which is fine. But perhaps on his end, he should have not initiated a relationship so soon. Is my thought.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That is it.
Where do we go from
Did that
here?
cover all of your red flags?
Yeah, because I think they were both. Yeah, my red flags were not wanting to see me on birthday ? And then the not answering text 9+ hours later were my red flags.
Yeah. So that's fair.
Was there anything else? I mean, you only met him so many times, and
I mean,
again in person, I feel like
in person, I thought he was great. Like, I thought you guys got along well enough. Like, still like the beginning stages of relationship where like, you guys are still getting used to each other, let alone like figuring out a whole group dynamic. But like, we did like that escape room. We hung out at Haley's house. Like, I thought that was
I also
all
feel like
fine.
in doing some reflection, I was kind of like trying to use this as like a learning opportunity because, if one thing doesn't work out, redirection to something else. And I was kind of like, first of all, there was no love bombing. Like, because some people, like, if things move super quickly and then like crash super quick, I feel like some people are like, oh, like, you've got to watch out for love bombing. I really, like, this guy was hardly paying for dates and like there was no excessive like compliments. I just think that like he probably wasn't ready for a relationship, but he like kind of forced himself into one anyways. And then I introduced him to like friends and family pretty quickly, and I was kind of like, should I have not done that? But I feel like I don't have any regrets in that sense because I care about, what my parents would think of the person I'm seeing and what both my sisters would think of the person I'm seeing as well. So I feel like if it feels okay, like the dynamic, or like if I felt okay about doing that and I don't regret doing that either. No. Obviously it makes it so like there's more people I have to tell now after the fact of like, by the way, this has ended. But again, I'm not really at a point in my life where I'm like embarrassed about that kind of thing because it just is what it is. It's part of life. So, yeah, it was funny because I was, the day of the breakup. Yeah. I was like busy crocheting. I went ham crocheting a new bag. This was my project, my breakup bag.
Breakup bag.
I need to go get charms for that. Actually, I was maybe going to go to Hobby Lobby. Anyways. And so my dad actually ended up calling me because he calls and just checks in every once in a while. And he, it's pretty typical for him to at some point be like, anything else new? And I felt like I might as well just tell him. So I didn't give him a rundown because he was actually like, I don't need to know details, even though they are.
Here's the whole podcast.
I didn't give him any details because I didn't need to bore him with that. But he was just like, well, it's okay. You'll be okay. And I was like, I'm fine. Thank you, though.
Do you think, and granted,
I would love to hear, I feel like if I were to hear the opposite from his perspective, I feel like he already told me this like for the breakup too, but he was like, I feel like we should be closer than we are, or like getting closer the longer we're in a relationship. And if anything, I do feel like that's going to force some reflection on my part and my avoidant attachment style, because I was like, and if any of you guys have any ideas, let me know. Because part of me was like, you know, having had these things that I was hung up on early on, I felt like I was still kind of like, this is something that's bothering me, but I wasn't bringing it up either early on to maybe possibly address it, to then move past it. And I was just letting it like fester, because I don't know, I have this really bad habit of like being someone who's kind of like, this is bothering me about this person or this relationship. I don't have to deal with this. I could probably find it like elsewhere. And so that's something I need to, I don't know, something I feel like I definitely need to work on and like figure out how to manage a little bit better, because like I'm not probably going to find a perfect person, but in my mind I feel like I will. So that would be, I feel like, what he would say on his end. I'd be like, your communication sucks. He'd be like, I feel like we were not getting any closer.
We'll have him as a guest on in a couple weeks. He'll share his side of the story. Yeah. Do you see yourself taking a break from dating for a little bit?
I am technically on Hinge, but it's like, it's never been worse is how I feel about it right now. Okay. So,
well, do you think that you will?
I will say
open sharing beginning stages of like talking to someone. I mean, there's
to
no
be
TikTok,
honest,
so
like here's the things are so like looking so poor right now, just like on Hinge. Like I can't even fathom even the beginnings of a relationship or talking to someone or dating at this point in time. I will say, having met this person not on a dating app, I am kind of hopeful, and or I know it's at least possible to, you know, not have to use a dating app to meet someone. Yeah. I don't feel like, I would say I'm open to kind of doing the same thing that I did before, although with TikTok not being a thing anymore, or at the moment, I'm not really sure where.
That's not really like a YouTube thing for us.
Yeah. Like, so it's like I'm open to it, but also like, and I would not be posting that on my Instagram. On Reels?
Of course not.
No.
That's my friends and family are.
That's too
intimate.
Yeah. So maybe on Red Note.
Catch her on Red Note. She'll share her next relationship beginnings over there. Okay. I think that's basically everything for... I didn't expect to talk about that for that long.
I know. But when I started talking, I had to share.
Yeah.
That way, like, it's all said and done with now.
So now...
no one has any lingering questions.
You know, looking into, you know, the future relationships, how do you see, like... Are you going to be, like, really, like, tuned into communication? Like, how...
Well, what was honestly kind of strange was, like, even when I've been, like... talking to people in the past, it's like now I have to find like the in between, because like when I was communicating with him, it was very intentional, and like the in-person stuff happened really quickly, and so that's kind of what you're looking for, I feel like, when you're trying to get into a relationship. But then like outside of that, it was like almost non-existent, versus, you know, when I've gone on a couple dates before, or when I've been talking to people on Hinge, for example, like there was a lot more frequent communication, or like you're kind of doing the whole pen pal thing, and you're kind of like, I don't really care to just keep doing this without doing the in-person thing. But I felt like at least I was like a part of their day.
Yeah. If I were to give like my 2 cents, like with me and my boyfriend, we like started off very much like you and your now ex, where it was like plan a date, check in day before, make sure the date's still on.
I kind of felt like it should have transitioned to like a little bit more frequently, like,
and then like after I'd say like date 3, it was like, oh, like a text here and there, like, oh, remember we talked about this on the date, like a way to bring up more frequent communication. Like then when we're like getting close to dating, it's like texting regularly throughout the day, just random stuff. So I think that's like the progression to be expected. And, like, you're not crazy for wanting more frequent communication when you are literally dating someone. But you also, like, should have the expectation of, like, if you're not dating and it's not serious, then it's okay to not be texting, which I think is what you want. So, I don't have, like, anything super interesting to share as far as, like, talking stages that I've had that have ended. Because I think
Have
9
you
times out of
okay?
10.
Do you feel like for dating talking stages, mostly from like dating apps, are you usually the one doing the ghosting or being ghosted? Do you feel like?
Dating apps specifically? Like in
Like-
terms of like we're still on the app, we haven't had a first date.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I'll say this after.
I feel
Okay.
like if anything, granted I never matched with a ton of people, but I feel like if I had matched with them, like I would have been willing to go on a date with them. And if we did not go on a date, it probably would have been because they stopped responding to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is like my general, like I think that's usually what
Usually,
happened.
there are
Or like they would like we'd match and like no one would say anything. You know what I mean?
yeah. I feel like that's typically.
Like if I match with you, I've already done my due diligence. Like
See,
I'm
I will
willing to go
say-
on a date with you.
I will
probably.
say sometimes I try to do my due diligence, but then like I'm running into roadblocks and I'm not finding like exactly what I am hoping to find online. So sometimes I will match, and then I'll be like, but I will
you
wait
come back
to.
the next day.
I will
fresh
wait
set of
to do a little bit more digging, and I don't know. I feel like I actually probably less. I would say it's probably 75%. Like they have to be the one that's gonna do like stop talking. Otherwise, if I matched you, I'm probably like interested enough to go on a date or keep talking. Then 25% maybe is me being like I was a little bit too generous maybe with my match in the first place, and now I'm kind of
Not
having a
feeling it.
fresh set of eyes and or the conversation is like not going how I want it to. So I don't need to do like a goodbye. We can just stop talking. There
Anyone
was
that I
one
have-
person.
Okay.
I went on 2 dates with someone last year on a dating app, and this was like we texted frequently enough, and we'd gone on 2 dates, and then it was just a ghost. And I was kind of like, you could have at least texted me, especially because like the last text was like he sent like a picture of his dog after he like went hunting or something, and then I was just like, oh cute, or something along those lines. Never to hear from him
Never
again.
to be seen or heard from again.
I was like, you could
The
have.
hunting was arguably a yellow to red flag. Any date that I've gone on in person from a dating app, which I think there was technically like, okay, I've gone on, I think, besides my boyfriend, 3 dates from dating apps. I think 2 of them, there's a text sent
From
I think
you or
from
him?
my end.
I've
Of
sent
me
a
being
text.
like, look, I don't think this is gonna work.
I also, and what's sad too is like, because after one of my first dates from 2023, I can't even say last year anymore. It was like we went on a date. It was like fine, but like I just was like, I'm not feeling it. Like there's no romantic energy here, and so I felt bad because after the date, then he did the follow up and kind of being like, I'd love to see you again, and then I had to be like, I'm so sorry. I just was not feeling it. I wish you the best though.
Otherwise,
There's no great way to do it, but I felt like
the only other, there was one date, because those 2, I'd been on like multiple dates with them, and so I felt like that warranted, like, you know.
yeah, like they put their
Ending
time and
things.
energy.
The other one was just like I don't even think we had each other's phone numbers. Like we had a first date. I think I've told you, it was like a mall walking date, and I was like, the second I saw him, I was like, no, like there's no, I can tell like friendship only. And so like we did our laps around the mall, said goodbye. Neither of us said anything to each other ever again. So that was like a mutual ghost, I feel. But like no hard feelings. It was like just a first date. I don't know.
I'm like, maybe after a first date you can do it.
If he would have responded to me, I would have
Right.
responded to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if you both kind of decide like, nah, like not gonna answer, then you kind of both mutually decided like this didn't work.
So yeah, that's the only thing I can share as far as like a quote unquote my like equivalent to a breakup is just ending talking stages. How about friendship breakups or like falling outs?
I feel like most of the time I've never had like a major friendship breakup. I feel like it's always just kind of been like a
slow
fizzle
fade.
out, slow fade. We're just in different times of our lives.
Which it's not harder, I think, than a friendship breakup, but in some ways it's hard because like nothing did happen, and sometimes you like crave those friendships or like want to like rekindle them because nothing happened, and you're like, how has it been 2 years, 3 years since we've communicated.
I know.
And
or there's some people that I would say, like, I feel like there's like friendship breakups, friendship like fade outs, but then there's also like friendships that are still good friendships, but you don't communicate frequently. So like our gym friends, I would say, like, we really, like, our communication has like dipped very low with some of them who like went to different colleges and like have moved,
live in different states,
out of state now. But I do feel like I could, you know, hit them up and like we could pick up where we left off without it being too strange. It just like hasn't been a friendship that's like been natural or easy to maintain just given where we're at.
You know what else we should talk about? How, like, 'cause we just had this conversation yesterday in the car where we've talked about, like, we have, like, with book club especially starting, like, we've gathered, like, a group of girls and young women, I should say, who, like, we can, like, you know, we have frequent get-togethers, like, we hang out with, we make plans with, like, we do all that stuff. But sometimes Megan and I feel as though, like, invitations are not reciprocated to us by not even just, like, people in that group, but, like, friends, family that we feel like we send invitations to. And how it can be a struggle. Because, like, I feel like I'm pretty free. Like, most weeknights, I don't got nothing going on. Most weekends are pretty open unless a plan has been set in place. Granted, Megan and I tend to be kind of, like, last-minute planners. And so sometimes we will send, like, an off-the-cuff
So sometimes
text.
maybe our invites that we think like, wow, we're doing so much to invite people. Maybe
Or,
it's like not
dinner
feasible.
in a half hour.
And it's like 7:30. People could have already eaten.
So that might be part of our issue. But then I feel like we do that often enough where, like, we don't get the same, like, return reciprocated invites, which can be annoying because, like, if people, I know most of the people that I talk to are, like, more busy than me. And so I'm like, well, then when you're free, you let me know because I can probably do whatever. You could probably hit me up on a 7 p.m. 30 minutes before and I could do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really know.
If you're a friend or a family member listening, hit me up. Whenever.
No hard feelings.
Okay. Anything else? What did ChatGPT say? I feel like we totally just, like, skipped the outline. We talked about romantic breakups, lessons learned. We kind of talked about that.
Talk about lessons learned. You guys comment on the episode post. What's the there's two ways you can go with this. You can be super reflective and you can say like the biggest thing that you've learned from a breakup, or if you do have a crazy breakup story, you could share that too.
Yeah,
Either
we
or.
would love to hear
welcome.
either.
We welcome either.
The healing or the
drama of it all.
Catharsis.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's gonna be all we got for you guys this week. We have an Instagram called According To. No numbers, only letters. You can check it out. We post when we post new episodes. We share some reels from some episode highlights. We just post some fun, cute pictures and stuff. We also post on stories sometimes if we need like listener input for anything. So if you ever want to be a part of that, you should be following us. We have a video version of the podcast on YouTube. You can search According To Podcast if you want to see our beautiful faces while we're talking. See our beautiful set that we've worked so hard on that people
It's cute. It's very cute.
keep saying how we should have it framed up. And then I keep saying, well, I want the whole pictures showing. So we're going to be a little bit small on the screen. It's fine. And you can follow our personal Instagrams as well.
Since TikTok's gone, follow us there. We will talk to you guys next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.